2 days after Juan Soto agreed to take his talents to Queens, the Yankees have found a worthy consolation. Left-hander Max Fried and the New York Yankees are reportedly in agreement on an 8-year, $218 million contract pending a physical. It's the largest guarantee in baseball history for a left-handed pitcher. Taking a look at the size of this contract in comparison to pitchers in Major League Baseball history, this one's up there. $218 million. Trailing just Steven Strasburg, $245, Garrett Cole at $324, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto at $325 million. For more on the evolving storylines coming out of MLB's winter meetings, I'm joined now by CBS MLB analyst and insider Jim Bowden. And Jim, the Yankees really committed here. After striking out with Juan Soto, Yankees offering Max Fried 8 years. You know, we've talked about this a little bit earlier, but what do you make of this deal?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Yankees, when they lost on Soto, they had to pivot quickly, and they did. And there's a big market out there for starting pitching, both Max Fried and Corbin Burnes. A lot of the big markets are bidding for these guys, and the Yankees know how to make these deals. They just offer more years and more money than everybody else, and that's what Brian Cashman did. I mean, I was projecting Max Fried to get a 6-year deal. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees gave him 7. He ended up getting 8 because they wanted the player and they got him. Now, I'm glad you mentioned it's pending a physical because, look, I don't think it's a slam dunk he passes the physical. The only reason I say that is each of the last 2 years, he's missed time with issues regarding his elbow or his flexor tendon. And so, you know, I think an MRI is going to be very important in their physical to make sure that the ulnar collateral ligament is in perfect shape, which I'm hoping it is. He certainly pitched great at the end of the year, but that's never a slam dunk. And look, they're getting a really good athlete here. They're getting a great ground ball pitcher, so it's going to be very important. They have good defense on the left side of the infield. They've got a pitcher that probably has the best pickoff move since Andy Pettit. And a good defender and a good clubhouse guy. One of the things Max Fried has proven, and he did it for the Braves, he pitched 8 years for Atlanta, but he proved that he can pitch at the biggest stage in the biggest moments. And so I think that's huge. But for the Yankees, this is just the beginning, right? This is the appetizer. Like, they've got a lot to do to make this team better, Madeline. And I know they have interest in first baseman Christian Walker, who's a free agent. Great defensive first baseman, has won 3 Gold Gloves, has 25-30 home run power. They've talked to the Houston Astros about a possible trade for Kyle Tucker. They've talked to the Cubs about a possible trade for Cody Bellinger. I know their manager likes Anthony Santander, and certainly he had 44 homers last year for Baltimore, so he could replace the power of Soto. I'm not sure if they're going to be in on him or not. Obviously, that's going to be very expensive. And they also need either a second baseman or third baseman with Gleyber Torres gone. So I love the start to the post-Soto era by starting with Fried. But the Yankees still have a lot of work to do if they want to get back to the World Series.
Well, and Jim, it's interesting, too, that you flagged his physical and that you're not super convinced that he'll pass it, because if he doesn't, that's a pretty significant shift in direction for the Yankees as they pursue accumulating some free agents here.
Well, it's going to be even, you know, and I'm sure they'll do the physical as soon as possible, and hopefully he passes it, right? I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. But the interesting part is in the free agent market, there's only one other pitcher left available that's a top-of-the-rotation guy like Max Fried, and that's Corbin Burnes. And so if Burnes is already signed by the time he takes the physical, the Yankees won't be able to pivot and then go sign Burnes, right? So I think that's kind of interesting. And in terms of Corbin Burnes, you know, we're hearing there's 4 teams that are in on Burnes here at the end: Boston Red Sox, Baltimore Orioles, Toronto Blue Jays, and San Francisco Giants. And I think the price for Burnes had to go up after Fried's 8-year, $218 million deal, because a lot of us were projecting Fried to get 6 years and Burnes to get 7. So now does Burnes get the 9 years that Garrett Cole got from the Yankees? Does he get like 9 years, $240 million? I mean, it won't surprise me, because the 4 teams I just mentioned are all desperate for starting pitching. So I think that's going to be really fascinating. I think he's going to probably sign, if not tonight, maybe as early as tomorrow. And that to me is going to be one of the more fascinating signings, not just where he lands, but how many years and how much dollars is he going to get if Fried got 8 at 218?
Right. The price tag for starting pitching is going up. But another pitcher that has agreed to a deal, right-hander Nathan Eovaldi, agreed to a 3-year, $75 million deal to return to the Rangers. Are you surprised the 2-time All-Star is staying in Texas?
You know, it's interesting because Baltimore, Boston, and the Mets were all interested in Eovaldi, I thought he would have been a great fit for the New York Mets. I thought he'd be a really tremendous fit for the Boston Red Sox, even the Baltimore Orioles. But his agent, Seth Levinson from Aces, made it very clear, Nathan Eovaldi is so happy in Texas. He had such a great experience in winning a world championship 2 years ago. He loves the relationship he has with GM Chris Young, the pitching coach Mike Maddox, the future Hall of Fame manager Bruce Bochy. He loved it there so much that, that's where he wants to be. So 3 years at $75 million, an AAV of $25 million a year. I think it's a really fair deal, and he gets to pitch where he wants to go. He wasn't about the most years or the most dollars. It's where he's the most comfortable. Texas is his home. That's where he's going to stay. No state tax, too, by the way.
Absolutely. There's a lot of value in that one as well. But for teams that are in pursuit of starting pitching, that may be looking to pivot to the trade market, perhaps, to find it, Dylan Cease is a name that's been floated. If the Padres decide to move Cease on the last year of his deal, who are some interested parties you're hearing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's interesting because I was talking to A.J. Preller, the general manager of the Padres, earlier today, and I said, look, most analysts feel, most baseball people feel in the industry that the Dodgers and Padres were the two best teams in baseball at the end of the year last year, which he agreed. So I asked him the question. I said, so do you take this team that you had, do you run it back and then add a piece or two and just try to go back and win? Or do you kind of do what you did a year ago, trade some pieces that are going to be a free agent, try to reload and go at it again? And he said, we have to look at all of the options. And the thing that really stuck out to me is what they did a year ago. They're the ones that traded Juan Soto to the Yankees. But it was a trade that helped them. They became a better team. Michael King was one of the big headliners coming back, gave them another top-of-the-rotation starter. And so I think when you look at where they are, I do think that he's going to be open to trading Dylan Cease. Now, he matches up, to answer your question, really well with the Boston Red Sox. So he has had trade conversations already with the Red Sox. Now, one of the needs that the Padres have is left field. Why? Because Jurickson Profar is a free agent. He has a hole at shortstop. Why? Because Ha-Seong Kim is a free agent. What do the Red Sox have in excess of? An outfielder. They could trade Wilyer Abreu or Roman Anthony along with a shortstop prospect like Marcelo Meyer to get a Dylan Cease, as an example, and then he'd be able to solve two positions with one trade, and then he could maybe pivot and make a run at Sasaki, who has a good relationship with Yu Darvish. Sasaki replaces Cease, and now he solved pitching, shortstop, and third base with all players that won't be arbitration eligible for 3 more years. So that makes a lot of sense. I also think I won't be surprised if David Stearns of the Mets picks up the phone and makes a phone call to try to see if he can't find a way to do a deal as well. I think Dylan Cease with the Mets on 1 year would be great. Remember, David Stearns doesn't like doing these long-term deals with Fried and Burnes and starting pitchers. That's not what he likes to do. But I think if he had an opportunity to get 1 year of Cease, I think he'd probably do that. And they do have a pretty good farm system if he wanted to make that kind of trade.
Okay, a lot of moving pieces this time of year. The MLB Winter Meetings, CBS MLB analyst and insider Jim Bowden, thank you so much for the insight.
Thank you.
We're talking about Dylan Cease. A lot of questions around what's going to happen with him. But when we take a look at the most strikeouts in MLB since 2021, Cease fires right here. Dylan Cease, top of the list with 891. Only pitcher with 200 or more Ks in each of his last 4 seasons as well.